loved Jasmine. I think that Grace and Jasmine would get along extremely well. Let's give credit where credit's due. Jasmine was talking about branding, and Grace and I are talking about something totally different today. So, you've seen Grace Fortune on here before. If you don't know her personally, she is one of the most awesome people that I've had the pleasure of meeting over the last year. And we actually met in person, which is just amazing to me. And we're both short. It turns out, I'm obsessed with these conversations about other people's height, Grace. It's so funny. I'm like, and they're so tall. Or, man, I'm not the only short person around.
It was very, very nice to feel like I am not alone in being the only short person in the room. It was pretty great, actually.
Yeah, well, neither you or I are that short. I think we're just around lots of tall people a lot of the time in our life. Because did you say your husband is also very tall in person?
Yeah, he's like 6'5".
Yeah, mine as well. So everyone's like, "Oh, it's his third child." Ha 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 ha. And it's like, that's funny, guys. That's real funny. So we have been in Think Tank together for the last year, just about.
Yeah.
This is my last month, which is a little traumatic to admit. But part of Think Tank was going to this conference last week, the TCCIRL, which was in Nashville. And have you ever been to Nashville before?
Never. No, I've only been to Florida and Buffalo, Niagara Falls, New York area in the States. Those are the only places I've been.
And that's a very big gap.
Extremely
big gap. Well, and it's I'm thinking I haven't been to that many places in Canada. I was in Montreal for my 20th birthday. Because I had friends who we were in Lake Champlain, and we're like, let's go across the border. Why not? And that was not last year. It was many years ago. And then I have been through Canada a lot, driving between Alaska and the rest of the states, and I've been to Vancouver a few times, but I haven't. I mean, so it's yes, those are very far apart, very large gaps, and some important stuff there, as it turns out.
Oh yeah, definitely. I've actually never been to Montreal myself. I live about, I want to say probably about I think a 10-hour drive from Montreal. I've just never had a chance to go. My goal is to go around Christmas one year.
I love that you also measure things in driving hours as opposed to distances. People are like, oh yeah, that's 30 miles. I'm like, so what does that mean? Right. And when we first moved to Wisconsin, and we're not even talking about TCCIRL, which I want to do. When we first moved here, we're like, oh, Door County, that's got to be a full day trip from here. My mom and I went, we were planning to be there all day, and we're budgeting our time so we could be back to pick up the kids from school. And we were there in 45 minutes. And it looks like this on the map. And I'm very used to things looking like this on the map being miles and hours and hours. And it's oh, well, that was cool. We're here. What are we going to do? It's just so funny to me. Everything. So what, we're talking about TCCIRL now, unless we want to talk more about traveling, which I'm totally down for. What really stood out to you about?
Gosh, there were so many different takeaways and different things that I got out of the conference. I think that the number one thing that I got out of it was the one-on-one, not one-on-one, the one-to-many kind of hot seat that I got at the end of the conference, because I was trying to pinpoint down my specific offerings, because I really want to work more with copywriters. So, but I realized okay, what I'm doing right now isn't really speaking specifically to copywriters. So I asked, it was the best market research opportunity ever, because there was God, how many of us in the room? 100 people probably. And I got to ask okay, what would make working with a course creator good for you in a way? And I really got some great ideas from another Think Tank member, especially for my lowest level offering. It's basically creating a roadmap to launching your first product or course, which was super, super cool. So I'm working on building out that offer this week, and I want to tweak my web copy to make it speak more to copywriters too. So it just really brought home that that's something that I need to prioritize doing if I want to continue working in that niche.
It's interesting that you say that. Like when I first started Womp Womp, I had no intention of doing it for copywriters. Like negative, none, not in my radar. But that's who really seems to get the most value out of it. And so I had to make some significant tweaks as well. And it's not easy, as it turns out, to get inside your own head. Because it's like, oh yeah, and someone would be like, well, and this, and it's like, oh, that sounds really cool. So yeah, I get that on a deep level. So I'm not, I think my biggest takeaway was that I have not over the years built a business that feels like really awesome to me. Like it pays the bills, which feels really awesome. Like, and I think you and I both came from this history of sort of being underpaid and not really knowing how to ask for more or not feeling confident or whatever the things were. And I'm putting words in your mouth, but based on our conversations, I feel like that's the case. Like, you know what, you control this. If you let people treat you a certain way, it's because you let them, and more so in this world than any other. Yeah. And it's terrifying to think that I can just decide that this is what I'm going to be, and then I can be it. But yeah, so I think my clarity is, you want to work with course creators. I want to lean more into teaching. I want to lean more into speaking. So we clearly have lots of conversations offline.
Oh yeah.
But it was like this, I guess, I don't know. Kira called me out on stage and she's like, you could burn it all down like Erin Pennings. And I was like, oh, I think this is what I want to be known for. I don't know. So I'm actually creating a talk around like burning it all down.
I think that's important. I think that really anybody who owns a business should understand like that feeling of wanting to burn it all down is, it happens. Like it's something that every business owner should recognize the signs of and learn how to either overcome it, or actually learn how to burn it down appropriately. You know what I mean? Burn it down and build it back up as you want. So I just think, like, for me, like, I feel like there's this almost, I don't want to say stigma, but there's almost like this sense of shame for wanting to burn it down, because it's like, it almost feels like a failure, but I don't think that it really is. As long as you're burning it down and building it back up again in a way that feels good for you, I say go for it. Burn it down.
Well, I think the foundation's still there, as if we're going to continue this metaphor. It's really about figuring out how you want the walls to look, what the separation looks like. And now I'm going to, do you want open concept or do you want something more Victorian and traditional?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I'm cracking myself up over here, but don't mind me. That's just a hazard of me speaking out loud, as it turns out. But yeah, I think it's more about refining and getting closer to what you really want. And I think, the first year of business, if you go about it like most freelancers, where you're like, cool, you want to hire me? Sweet, I'm in. Is more, it's like that starter. I'm going to keep going with this. This is going to be painful. It's like that starter home. And it's like, cool, this works. But then you start to figure out what you really want. My starter home was a 600 square foot. I would say the first house I lived in after we got married, our first house that we moved into together, not the condo that I had, was the 600 square foot house. I think it had been like a summer cottage at some point, but it was very awkward. You had to go through the bedroom to get to the bathroom, and there were all these weird oddities. It could have been laid out so much better, but the way it was set up, it was not good. So, I think, and then it was like, oh, I'm tired of moving piles around so that we can have people over, so we can do this. I want storage. And so that was one of the things that we looked at for our next houses. And so I think, to tie this all back together, I think that's what it's really like. Everything you do, every client you let go of, every new client you get brings you closer to understanding what you want, to refine it. So maybe you're not burning it down, but and I don't know. I think TCCIRL gave me the permission to feel okay with making some tough choices.
Yeah.
It's not easy. It's not easy to let someone go.
And yeah, that makes complete sense, because like for me, like I basically burn my original business idea down and then I'm rebuilding. So like, as you know, Erin, I started out as a virtual assistant, right? So I basically burned that down and I'm building up a copywriting slash course strategy business in its place, right? So it's really, you're still building a house. It's just a matter of putting different paint on it and making it look different, right? So
Yeah.
there's nothing wrong with that. Businesses constantly
Maybe
evolve.
adding an addition to make
Yeah,
it the right size, and
yeah,
it's
like
not about right sizing it, I think.
it's a
Dana
fluid.
Melstaff at one point had said to me, she's like, I love that every year I get older because I step into a closer vision of who I am and who I want to be. And I was like, that fits.
I like that.
Does that fit for you?
I think so. Yeah, because like you're as a person, like you're fluid. As you get older, you change, you grow, you get better. Some people get worse. But yeah, I just think that I think it's really empowering, the fact that we're not stuck and we're not in a static position. We have the power to make whatever changes we want, and I kind of love that.
So yeah, so let's, now that we've kind of touched on like our personal philosophies, who was the best speaker? Not the best speaker, because they were all amazing. There's no way you can quantify that.
Yeah.
What speaker really resonated with you? Like all of them, were amazing.
Hmm.
I learned something. Like my notebook, I have like every speaker, and then I've got like big bold, highlights around.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. Well,
The person said.
I think for me, from a practical standpoint, I think that Brian S's, I can never pronounce his
Brian
last name.
Sparinello, yes.
Yes. Sorry, Ryan, if you're listening somehow. From a practical perspective, I think that he gave some really, really excellent advice on how to position yourself as being more high value, right down to what to say to people. So that was really, really brilliant. I'm actually working on getting some merch out for people who are at TCCIRL who can actually buy it. There's going to be T-shirts, coffee cups, stickers, even like a little poster that you can buy if you want, right?
Can I put it on my new wall?
Yeah, which I love, by the way.
Oh, thank you. We were buying, I don't know, my kids wanted to make some kind of art project last week. Oh, I brought them home keychains from Nashville.
Nice.
So it's like, I don't want to take something that's going to be a huge bag. They don't need more stuffed animals. But I was like, we could start keychain collections. And that would be something easy for me to bring to them. So like, we want to decorate these wooden boxes for them. So we went to Michael's, the craft store, and got all the things. And then I saw something that was kind of like this, but it was way more expensive than getting it elsewhere.
Yeah.
So I was inspired and I found this there. But yeah, it's part of the reinvention.
Yeah, no, it looks great. I think it's really cute. I've actually been considering doing some redecorating in my office too.
It's fun. It's fun to just, and I was like, oh, what can I put up there? And I was like, I have no idea. So let me print out my brand colors. Here's some books that I've been reading and or want to read. But yeah, so I back to Brian, like I really agree. It was so tactical. It was so, I'm struggling with words, but it was really good information. It was really motivational, but it was also like, and here's how you do it. Here's step one. Here's step two. And all of them make a lot of sense, but I don't think I would have come up with a lot of them on my own. It's like, oh.
Yeah. It was very, very actionable is what I would call it.
It wasn't like just raise your rights. It was like, here's when, here's how, here's what you can say, here's how you can overcome any challenges, and here's what that looks like. And it's like, oh, I really, really like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But beyond just his presentation, like it was very memorable. It was like, I can't make a business case for that. It's very, very sticky. Like it's just very, very quotable. So I love that kind of stuff. I'm one of those kind of people who, like, whenever somebody is talking and they say something really, really like catchy or memorable, like I'm always writing down quotes and whatnot. So that's my jam.
Me too.
Oh yeah, that's cool.
My Instagram over the next couple of weeks is going to feature some of my favorite quotes from the
I
month
love that.
or last week. I don't know.
So I think another presenter that really kind of resonated with me from a less tactical and more of like a, oh wow, that like just made me think. What was I can't remember her last name, Sarah A. Her talk on
Oh, Sarah Ashman. Yes.
how do you remember all these names? I would love to know that because I can never.
I wrote
She
them down and I'm looking at them.
yes, yeah. I wasn't, for anybody listening, I was not smart and I did not bring my notebook. Anyway, she gave this really good talk about how to draw on your past in order to create a brand that really resonates with you. And I that really made me think a lot about how I want to present myself going forward. So I don't know exactly yet what that's going to look like, but that one I think probably made me like scratch my head the longest and think.
Well, I think what she said that I can't remember verbatim and all, so I'm going to do my best, was something about, she had illustrated this book when she was 17, and the picture of the little boy looked exactly like her son, like 10 plus years later.
I
And that
literally
was
lost my mind.
wild to me. And so she's like, so really, these ideas of who I wanted to be and what I wanted to do were in there all along.
Yeah,
So who were you before you let someone else tell you who to be?
yeah,
And it was like that playfulness, I think, is what comes through in so many of the brands that she consults with,
oh yeah.
from Youre to she just did Brittany McBean's creative direction too. Have you seen those photos?
I have not.
Oh, you're in for a treat when she releases her site.
Oh, I can't wait. That's going to be awesome.
And I think she did Hillary Weiss's as well. So, but it's so cool to just see it in action. That's like, oh, that. And it really, like, I don't know, that made me think a lot. It's like, who was I? And I remember distinctly, my when I lived in Costa Rica, my roommate Jessica and I were like, this is how it's going to be. This is who we are. This is blah 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 blah. And she stuck with that. And due to various things that happened in my life, and what I was doing in 2008 when like there were no jobs, and some of the things that I stuck with, I let that squash a little bit of what I wanted out
Yeah.
of life. And I mean, I think that's what all of us do. And so that really motivates me to figure out, who is this that I really want to be? What feels right? So I want to, dive into Pinterest and create some brand boards now.
Yeah. Like it really was like, okay, what do I want to be when I grow up, and how do I incorporate that into my brand? Because like I still feel like I'm barely even an adult, even though I'm almost 38.
I can relate. Yeah, this is my 40th birthday. We booked our tickets to Vegas.
Yay.
Yeah. And I was talking to my friend who's meeting me there yesterday, and I was just like, I want to make sure there's lots of pool time, because I want to do some of the things. Like I want to go to some good dinners, go to Cirque, but really, I just want R&R. I don't have children that are climbing on me. I don't have. I just want 3 days that are just fun, just
Yeah.
us. And so both of our husbands are coming down, and so I mean, it's like the four of us are hanging out, and it'll be good. But it was just like, I don't remember where that was coming from, but it was like, well, who do I want to be? What do I want to do? What would the bold action be that I can take to grab that?
Yeah.
Bold is scary sometimes, but it's fun.
It is scary. And for me, like I've always just been the kind of person to just kind of go with the flow. Like asking myself these kind of questions, like, okay, what do I want? What do I want to do? Is really difficult. Because I feel like a lot of times throughout my life, I've been kind of, forced to be a chameleon and be whatever other people need and want at that moment. And it's kind of got me all like turn around in the head, because it's like, okay, what do I actually want? And even having like that deep conversation internally, I struggle with feeling like, okay, am I being selfish by thinking of just myself for once? And I know that it's not. and you need to as a person in order to grow, but it's a struggle to kind of do that kind of deep dive on your own self, because it's like, okay, what am I stirring up here?
Well, and I think it's like our conversation offline this morning, and about the different guilts that we feel, and I was just like, by the way, yeah, these things happen, and because you were there, it's part of it, but like, how can you move forward? Like, what would you tell your friend? And so you're like, I wish I could believe what you just told me. And I'm like, that's because I'm telling you because I need someone to tell it to me because I can't tell myself. And
Yeah.
I think it's hard for people with our personality type because we are very, very similar. But also for a lot of women in general who have, the world has told us that we're the caregivers, so we go be caregivers. And it looks very different for us than it did 75 years ago.
Oh, sure.
Like my grandmother was a research scientist. She has
Wow.
a degree from Columbia and she worked at the Rocky Mountain, Anyway, it's a level 4 biohazard facility where they do research on diseases. It's very cool. I wish I could remember the name. And it's still around today. And then my grandpa came back from World War II and they had a family. And so she felt like she had to give it up. She didn't feel like she had options. And so it's like, it's really cool that we do have options. Like, so much has changed, but in a lot of ways, like, I don't know, I jumped at the chance to stay home with my kids, which was crazy to me. If you'd known me even 5 years before that, I'd have been like, yep, no, good. But, and then that's just changed. Like, I would say Linda Perry has me digging into Enneagram, and every time I take the test, it's a different result, but they all have some commonalities. Like, I'm really high in 2, 4, 7, and 8. Yeah. And depending on the day, but she mentioned to me, she's like, it's how you react to the world around you. And it's the personality that you've had to develop. So it makes sense that it shifts a little bit based on what's going on in your life. But it's like, I wonder who I would have been or who you would have been if we'd taken it when we were 20. What would that have looked like? Would it be very similar or would it be extraordinarily different given that we had none of these family responsibilities? And I love my kids. Like, I'm not saying anything different. I would not change them, but like, who would I be if, the last 20 years hadn't happened?
Yeah. No, I totally agree. Like, I was a totally different person, like 15 years ago, right? When I was just in my early 20s, like, I was all about just, hanging out with my friends, and, like 1 o'clock in the morning, we'd be going to like 7-Eleven and grabbing pop and chips and taquitos and things and just hanging out till like 6 in the morning and just not caring about like other responsibilities. So adulting definitely changed me, especially getting married. I hate to use that expression just because it's cliche, but it's true. I mean, I think adulting should be a verb because it's hard. And it does require
part of your brand promise. So you can adult however the heck you want. Like, create a digital product or course so you can adult however you want. Or, you know what I mean?
I actually like that a lot. I'm gonna write that down.
I'll type it up for you too.
Oh, thank you. I'll see if I can incorporate that in there somehow because that's a lot of fun.
Yeah, and then you could do a Sarah Ashman brand shoot where you're like, business on one side, and then you're like party girl with like the sequin dress on the other.
Wait a second. Wait, that means I have to get a mullet now because it's like business in the front, party in the back.
You could be a proverbial mullet, like. Well, like, and it's funny. So I have always thought of like online lifestyle being like a different version of mullet. It's like it's the camera mullet where you're like professional up above. And it's like, by the way, I'm wearing sparkly shorts and
yeah, if you're lucky.
If you're lucky, right. Yeah. Are you really wearing pants? And I am, because we live in Wisconsin. It's generally cold. In the summer, anyway, shorts. This is hysterical. I feel like our conversations always kind of go off in these interesting things. But yeah, it is. It's like or you could do like a different version of you could do a mullet if you wanted to, but you could do like tuxedo top and
tuxedo top and like athleisure wear on the bottom.
Yeah, totally. But make sure that it's not just black yoga pants.
No, I'm good.
Yeah. Oh, I think that would be so much fun. So, real quickly, because we're here and I want to highlight you, even though I've done a lot of talking, what is your new offer shaping up to be? Like, what does that, and knowing that it's in its very early stages.
Yeah. So as of right now, like the first offer that I want to focus on is for brand new copywriters who want to launch their first product. It's going to be called something like the product launch blueprint. So basically what's going to happen is we have like a strategy call for an hour. We talk about the different sorts of potential offerings that you could have, what your goals are, et cetera, et cetera. Then what happens is I would help you do the research on, your audience, like where everything aligns with what you could offer and what I think would be the most effective product launch for you, right? And then after you're done, you get like a complete write-up of all of my possible different recommendations of products that you could do, why I think that they would work. And then the second part of the end deliverable would be like a complete, basically step-by-step roadmap on how you can make that thing go live, like what you need to do.
I love it.
Yeah. So I think that just based on the feedback that I got from my hot seat at TCCIRL, I think that would really be great for a lot of newbie copywriters.
And I don't think it's new copywriters. A lot of people wait a long time to create a digital product.
Yeah.
I think it's such a cool offer. And then does that seg into done with you if they so desire, or?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah. So it does make a nice segue into either a done for you or done with you course launch. So I was thinking like, I like the idea of the done with you and done for you stuff that I have going on now, but I think that I need to work on my positioning surrounding it and make it more geared toward copywriters instead of just generically talking about like freelancers, which is what's on my website now, because like I do want to serve, I can serve those people as well, but for the sake of like being specific and niching down, I think I need to call out copywriters by name if that's who I want to work with.
Yeah, I think so too. And I love the idea of like adult on your terms. I keep coming back to that, but I think it's such a cool thing. And you have so much information and so many ideas because you've been part of so many of these. So where can people go to learn more, or when you're ready to put it out into the world?
Yeah. So like you were saying, right now it's in its infancy stages. I have to to finish all up, update my web copy, figure out like the processes and procedures behind it. But I'm hoping to go live with it at the beginning of May, which is close to our birthdays.
Yay! Oh, by the way, Grace and I are birthday twins.
Yes, we are. It's fun. So if you want to find out more about that, the information will be on my website once it's ready to go. So gracefortune.com. It'll be right there on my services page. There'll be like a form to fill out, all sorts of stuff.
Can they hop into your DMs if they want to get in a waiting list too?
Yeah, totally.
Cool.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Also, I do have an email list. So if you do want to get on that, gracefortune.com, there's like an opt-in thing at the bottom that you can just fill in your name and your email, or, if you want to shoot me a DM, I can just add you myself. It's up to you.
Yeah. And Grace's emails are awesome, by the way. And I totally put you on the spot for this, by the way. I was like, hey, how can people find out more? Because I was like, you know what? We've been talking about this. Let's make it happen. So, well, thank you for hopping on with me. This is amazing. And I am so glad I've gotten to know you over the last year. And a friend will last for many, many to come.
It better.
With me. Awesome. Well, thanks again. And let's do this again soon.
All righty. Talk soon. Thanks for having me, Erin.